Hi, everyone online. Just to let you know, we will get started here in 3 minutes at 1:05. So if you need a coffee or anything, feel free to grab that. We'll get started shortly here. I know. I swear, anytime I'm like, just cut off the dead ends, they just cut all my hair off. I guess it was all dead. Hey, been a while. I know. All right, everyone. All right, so we are doing opportunities today, which I am very excited to teach you guys all that opportunities have to hold. Come on in. So opportunities is something that, so first of all, that's your transaction management in Command. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you where opportunities is, and I'll show you where the notes are as well. All right, and for those of you online, I'll send over a link to the notes. All right, so if you can go to Command, so that's agent.kw.com. All right, like it's the agent login for kw.com. So agent.kw.com. And put in your username and password. What is my password?
You can tell my comfy shoes. I am tired as a bit. I just don't want to work for so long.
Come on, no, you're good. Come on. Not at all. We're just working on transactions. You guys are great. So the opportunity, hey, how are you? Didn't even see you come in. So the opportunity section of Command is a section that hardly any agents really focus on. So a lot of agents will put their transaction in when it's time to go under contract or to get paid. Okay, and I'll show you guys where that is. All right, but what your opportunity section does is going to give you a pipeline of all the things that you need to do from when you meet the lead. So a lot of systems will be contract to close. It's great because opportunities go a step above and beyond that, where it's all the way from meeting the contact. What are the action items I need to do to move them down my pipeline? Okay, and that's what we're going to set up today. Is in your pipeline, we can create action items of all the things you need to do to get them into an appointment. okay? So where you want to go in Command to see that. All right, so from Command, on the left-hand side, right, that's your Command menu. If you can click on the handshake icon for me. So that handshake icon, okay, that'll be your transactions, right? And this is where you'll see those pipelines. And this is what we're going to work on building out today to make it work for your business specifically. All right, so you'll see that you have 3 separate pipelines here. One's for listing, one's for buyer, one's for leases. Okay, and you'll see 5 different phases down that pipeline. So we have cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and close. Okay. But what's important that you don't see quite yet, we will in just a second, is we can add checklists into each one of these phases that keep you on track. Okay, let's say you have 6 different transactions going. Right? It gets a little confusing to remember, okay, which client did I reach out to for this, right? Who have I done this for? So this maintains all of your transaction to-dos, and it updates as you move it down the pipeline. So you'll have a different checklist when you're trying to cultivate that lead than you do when that client goes into the appointment phase, okay? And I'm going to show you how to do that. Other things you're looking at here, just a heads up, you'll see on the far right, the GCI. So what that's telling you is that's your potential income. So if everything on your pipeline closes, this is what you'll make. The probable income, that changes as the transaction goes down the pipeline. So for example, if the transaction is under contract, there's a higher probability that it will close than if it's just in the cultivate phase, okay? So just so you guys know the difference, potential income would be if everything closed versus probable income, and you'll see the percentages it's adjusting by, I'll show you guys that, but it increases the probability that you'll make that income the further down the pipeline the transaction goes, okay? So that's the difference between those 2 things. Now, before we dive into, we're going to create an opportunity and walk through how that would work and customize your pipelines. But let me give you the notes for today's class so that you have that. And this is on kwbresources.com. So kwbresources.com, right? That's your internal website with all of your tools as an agent with KW. And where we want to go specifically for these notes, I know it's hiding a little bit up here. Let me move this. Is we want to go to tech resources. What's this? And then the second option down is that Tech Tuesday calendar. Let me move. Does it say tech resources, right? That's what's behind there. Thank you. Okay, appreciate it. So the second option down, Tech Tuesday, right? It has the calendar, but really I'd like you to scroll below that for the notes. Okay, and this one's going to be near the bottom. It's transaction management. So go ahead and click on that. Okay, so this is a live Google Doc, so it'll always have the most up-to-date tip videos on here. So what this is you'll see a bunch of little YouTube videos on the right. Those are 10-minute versions of all the things you're going to learn in today's class. All right, and I've highlighted the versions that I would recommend watching after this class, okay? So we'll go through all of this, okay? And we're going to actually use that opportunity checklist template to add our checklist in if you would like to, okay? But just know that this exists and I'll reference back to it for your 10-minute videos on how to use transactions. So now that you have that open, if you could hop back to the opportunities tab, it should have a KW logo on the top. And we're going to start by creating an opportunity so you can see what goes into an opportunity itself. And then we're going to take a look at customizing the pipeline to your business, which is one of the best things you can focus on admin-wise on getting your transactions ready. Okay, so first thing I'd like you to do, again, I'm in opportunities. So if you click on the handshake icon on the left-hand side, and then let's click to create an opportunity on the top right. Okay, and just a reminder, anytime that you click a menu item on the left-hand side, you'll always want to then draw your eyes to the top right because that's where that Kelly green button is. That's the action item for whatever page you're on. Okay, so what the heck is an opportunity, right? An opportunity is a transaction. So you want to enter in an opportunity each time that you have a possibility for a buyer or a listing, okay? So create opportunity here. There's 3 fields that you have to fill out, all right? And those 3 fields are the opportunity type. So this is where we're telling it, is it a listing, buyer, landlord, or tenant? So I'll do a listing. You can do either one, listing or buyer. Both would be similar. All right, client, this is where we can go ahead and put in our client's name. Now, if they are already in your database, see, I think I have Albus Dumbledore, right? They'll pop up as an option to select right from there. However, if they're not already in your database, it will give you the option to add them as a new contact. Okay, so either one, if you are adding in that client's name, you can either select from your drop down, like if you have a practice contact, or if you want to create a practice contact right now, feel free to write in practice and click add new contact. Practice. Just so you guys can see what it looks like. So when I add that new contact, it's going to give me the option to put in their email address and phone. Okay, and all it's going to do is create a new contact for that client. It doesn't send them anything, but it's just going to add them to your contact database. And all this information will then auto-populate onto any forms in DocuSign. Oh, whoops. So you can go ahead and put in any I would recommend, if you do not already have yourself in your command database, you can go ahead and add your email so you can see what it looks like whenever clients get things from you. Okay, the last field we have to fill out is the commission rate right here. So you might have to scroll down slightly. And we want to put in your side of the transaction. Okay, so whether they haggle you down or not, this you can change. So you want to put in 3% for that commission rate. And then you can click create. Of course, if there is a co-seller, I know I jumped over that field. If there's a co-seller, if there were a spouse in the transaction, that's when you would add them here. So right, command doesn't want Jane and John Smith to be a contact. They want John Smith to be one contact, Jane Smith to be the other contact. So they can both sign paperwork.
Don't put.
Yeah. So yes, you would. So if there's a spouse in the transaction, that's when you would put in them. It just wants it separate as opposed to one contact. So they can both sign separately. If that makes sense. All right, so you can click create. But again, the 3 fields I filled out was I'm putting in opportunity type, the client's name, and the commission rate. Those are the 3 main fields we have to fill out, and we can click create. And it will tell you if there's a duplicate, like mine had a duplicate email address. So that's why it didn't let me add it. So it does look for duplicates for you. Okay, so the main thing you need to know here is this is A, how we get into DocuSign. Okay, and B, where all of the information autofills from. Now, we're not going to focus on DocuSign today. That's a whole nother class. However, it's important for you guys to know that this details section, right, anything in here will auto-populate onto any forms that you bring in DocuSign. So for example, if you know the property address and you want to put it in, you absolutely can. Once it's live on the MLS, then you'll be able to link the listing here, okay? But in the meantime, if you want that to autofill everywhere, you can just click the pencil icon to edit any of this information. So then when you go into DocuSign, all of that will autofill onto your forms. Okay, so that's what the details section does. But how we get into DocuSign is actually from the documents section. So if you can join me in the documents section, I'm going to tell you the essential workflow for getting into DocuSign. Okay, and that's what we're going to do for DocuSign right now. I do have a video on it on the notes that I'll show you. Okay, but this is essential that these next steps in the workflow are absolutely essential that you do it in these steps. So in the documents tab, you guys have probably heard this if you've taken a class from me. When we pick checklist type, it is essential that we pick the checklist type first before clicking start a transaction, okay? So don't click it right now, but start a transaction is how we will go into DocuSign. It's how we create the DocuSign room. However, if we select the checklist first, it will automatically bring in all the forms that you need for that transaction. So it's a huge time saver and teaching method that you don't have to go find every single form that you need. Okay, but again, the essential steps are that you select the checklist first before, so you're telling it what kind of transaction it is, so it knows which forms to add to your room when you click start a transaction. There's just no going back. That's why I harp on it. Like if you click start a transaction without picking a checklist, you can't go back and auto add it. You would have to create a new opportunity. Or of course, you can go get your forms one by one. But if you want to take advantage of, it putting all the forms that you could need for this transaction in for you, the checklist just has to be selected first before you click start a transaction. Yeah, and if your client is looking in South Carolina instead, of course, you would pick that one. But if it's North Carolina, yeah, the listing sale. If you selected a buyer opportunity, you're going to have different options than I did. So if you selected a buyer instead of a listing, then you just have slightly different options here. In case that might be what's happening there. All right, so we feel comfortable that this is how we get the forms, and then we click start a transaction to start the DocuSign room. And I'll do it just to show you guys what it looks like. When you click on that, it'll most likely just pull up DocuSign right away because you probably don't have .loop. So if you click start a transaction and nothing happens, make sure you look in, it's probably a pop-up blocker. So if you click on start a transaction and nothing happens, look in the URL bar. You should see like a little web browser with an X through it. And that'll allow you to always allow pop-ups from DocuSign. All right, so I'm just going to show you what I mean by how it adds all the forms. You do have a separate DocuSign password that you do need to remember. You would have to log in the first time each day for security reasons. So this is another password that you'll need to know. But see how all these forms are automatically in there? That's because I selected the checklist first and then click start a transaction. If I didn't do that, there would be no forms in the room, which is not the end of the world. I just want to also stress that. Let's say you forget that step, right? It's not the end of the world. You can always manually add your forms by clicking on add on the top right and selecting that second option for DocuSign forms. Okay, and just so you know, see that blue icon, the form icon right here where it says DocuSign forms, and it has that blue icon on all of these. That indicates to you that it's a typable form, meaning I can open it and just start typing in it. So now this is showing you where you can get more typable forms, right? Because it'll automatically put in like the essential forms, but if you need like a floodplain disclosure or anything extra, right, you can just come in here and you can go ahead and grab Sabra. Breaks up the forms on the left-hand side by like North Carolina listing, North Carolina sale. So depending on what you need, I recommend looking at the form packets on the left-hand side. Questions on, I know this is just like a quick overview of what DocuSign does. Any questions on that so far? Feel okay? All right, great. Okay, so we're going to go back into opportunities because that's where we're focusing on. But before we do, I just want to make sure it's crystal clear what the two do and why they are used together. So I'm going to click on the Opportunities tab with the KW logo on the top left, okay? Because I want to stress the fact, okay, I'm looking at the Documents tab right here in Command, and I see a bunch of documents. What is the difference between this page and the Documents tab in DocuSign, okay? This was really enlightening once I really figured this out. So the DocuSign room, what you're looking at here, this is used between you as the agent and your client to type in your forms and send them for electronic signature. So DocuSign is used between you as the agent and your client to get forms signed. Once the forms are signed, that's when they're added to the Documents tab of your opportunity, okay? So once you have the signed listing agreement, that's when you'll go ahead and add it to the opportunity. And I'll show you the how in just a little bit here. You'll add it to your opportunity so that you can submit it to the Office for Compliance Review. So the Documents tab that we're looking at here on the screen in Command is used between you as the agent and the office to submit your signed paperwork so you can get paid. You literally cannot get paid without knowing this piece of information. So it's a big one. Okay, because what they do compliance for you to keep you out of real estate jail, right? And you have to submit your signed paperwork for review, so they'll release your check, okay? And we're going to come back to that. I'm going to show you what you do when you go under contract in general, and that'll be adding your paperwork and adding the offers and commissions, okay? So put a pin in any questions that you have there, and we're going to come back to that. There's one more section I want to show you in this back end here before we go to work on your actual pipeline, and then we'll come back to where we are here. But if you chose a listing opportunity like I did, you have a marketing tab. And this is not something that you have if you select a buyer opportunity, just a heads up. But if you select the listing, then you have a marketing tab back here that gives you marketing pieces in Command that would tie into wherever that opportunity is on the pipeline. So for example, right now we're trying to cultivate this, right, lead. So it gives me different pieces that are more like lead cultivation. Do you know the value of your home? What do buyers love, right? Trend alert. Well, once I move this opportunity, I'll show you down to active. It's going, and I click on marketing, it's going to show me just listed posts. So these recommended posts change depending on where it is on the pipeline, which is very cool. Okay, so know that you guys have that under the marketing tab here. And you can just click to start editing any of those. All right, guys, so let's work on your pipeline, okay? So, and you guys have not seen, like, gone into the pipeline. So if you could join me again, let's click on the opportunities icon on the left-hand side. And let's go ahead and click on that first option. So you'll see here under listings, that cultivate, right? You're growing the relationship, hence the little plant. So if you click on that, it'll open up your pipeline, okay? And that's where I see any transactions that I have going, but I also see sub-stages. So you'll see these 5 phases at top, right? Cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and close. Then within each one of those, there are stages. So we are watching the lead, right? And you can, sorry, I'll show you how to edit these. So you can see I added 6 to 12 months. Right, we're then nurturing the lead, and then we're ready to sell. Okay, and you'll see that as we click on any one of these phases, there's then sub-stages for each one of them. Okay, so why this is important is you also have a checklist that correlates to each section of the pipeline here. So you'll notice, and this is what we're going to put in, right? So let's say I'm on just prep for an appointment. I know you don't have this yet. But you'll see right here, I have 0 out of 6, right? I can see my checklist. Yours probably say 0 out of 0. But if I click on that, it tells me, okay, what are all the things I need to do to get ready for my appointment? So first of all, it takes the mental load off of me remembering what's going on for each transaction. It helps me learn, because I'm going to give you a template that you can copy and paste this checklist in. So I know what the heck to do next, right? I have this to-do list here. And even cooler is we can make this notify your clients when you complete things, okay? So let's think about, let's say you go active with a listing, and some of these checklist items are putting a sign out, putting the lockbox out, going live in the MLS. All right, so if you check those items, you can make it email your client to tell them all the things that you did for them in the past 24 hours, which I love because it streamlines client communication, as well as it keeps them in the know of what's going on. And it also tells them, I find that the general public just has no idea how much real estate agents do. And this gives them a window into what you're doing, even if they're not actively hearing from you, okay? So let's talk about how to set that up in your account now, okay? So that's what exists. So to set that up, we're gonna start on the cultivate phase, totally up to you. But if you wanna join me on the cultivate phase, the little plant, how we go to add stages and checklists and edit all of this is on the top right. You'll see stages and checklists. Okay, and the first thing I did, for example, is I think by default it says something like watch, nurture, hot, something like that, right? And I wanted time frames for it to make more sense to me. So this is all about your business, your decisions here. All right, but I wanted to have a time frame. Okay, so longer term leads, I want to have a different checklist than if they're ready to sell in the next 3 to 6 months versus if they're ready to sell now. So what I'm going to do to change those names is I'll click the pencil icon to the far right of that stage name, and then I can edit it. So I would recommend adding in 6 to 12 months. Again, this is totally up to you and your business, but that's where you can put in a time frame. You'll notice that probability under it. I personally recommend to ignore it. That's how it figures out your probable income. Mathematicians figured out that probability, so let them do their thing, in my opinion, but it is changeable. And you can click save. And then I might recommend doing it for the other two now. Pencil icon to add 3 to 6 months. Pencil icon to add ready to sell. And then we're going to add the checklist. So things will get really exciting. So after you're done renaming these, and take your time, no rush, just pencil icon, you can rename those. All right, then we can come over to the checklist, which yours probably says 0 out of 0. So if I select that, so where it says 0 out of 0, it'll show a checklist. So again, yours will most likely be blank. All right. Now let's figure out, well, what are the things I need to add on my checklist? I have an Excel spreadsheet for you. Okay. So if you would like to do this, all right, this is optional. I'm going to show you how, though, you would add checklists, because there's not like a checklist that you can just select and it just pops up. I think that's because, you know, North Carolina, those steps are different than South Carolina is different than Georgia, right? It's just so different. Well, I have the steps. So on the notes, and if you lost these notes, I'll tell you how to get back here. But if you're here and you want to click on this checklist template, that's the one we're going to. If you lost this page altogether, it's okay. I don't blame you. There's a million tabs for everything. But if you want to get back here, just go to KWB Resources. Lagging. So I'm on kwbresources.com. Tech Resources on the top menu. And then the second option for the Tech Tuesday calendar. And then the notes are on the very bottom of that page. So transaction management, they're on the bottom. So you have to scroll to the very bottom of this page, Tech Tuesday calendar. And if I lost anyone, please feel free to chime in. And I'm happy to explain that in more detail. But transaction management here, and we want that bottom checklist template. Okay, so click on that. And it will bring you to the checklist. Okay, so I have this all set up here for you for buyers and for sellers. The catch is copying and pasting it in. All right, so at the bottom, you'll see the entire buyer checklist, and you'll see a seller option too. So what this looks like is a little bit of tedious work and maybe an hour of time blocking where we're going to copy and paste these things. And these things are totally up to you. If you want it to be there, you can, of course, alter it. But it's great to have just like a base template to get started on. Okay, so I'm going to show you the how, and we'll workshop this. So if you want to do this, I'll stick around and do this with you after class as well. All right, but all we would want to do is any of the items. So let's say I'm going to copy this one. So you can either right click to copy or write Control C on your keyboard or Command C if you're a Mac user. Right, so all we're doing is copying it from this Excel spreadsheet. And then we're going to go into the command opportunities. Okay, and again, right, I clicked on the checklist to add those. And I'm going to click Add Item. Okay, so then it gives me the option to paste that in. So that's either right click to paste or Control V as in Victor, or Command if you're a Mac user. All right, so first we're putting in the task name, then it asks you if you want it to be a client update. Like, do you want your client to be emailed for this? So typically that's a no until we get into like the active stage or under contract, right? Typically we don't want them to know that we're trying to make sure their phone number is correct. Right, you can put in a description, a hyperlink, but typically that's really all we need is the task name, and then you can click create. So then we want to do that again. Add item. We're going back to our checklist, copying the next thing. Control C, and you can pick and choose what you add. You can add all of them, but as you can see, it's a one-by-one process and a little tedious. However, the beautiful thing is if you set this up one time, if you take an hour to copy and paste this in, your transactions are set up forever, right? And it'll allow you to be more efficient and effective in your transactions. So what most agents do is they throw their transactions in when they're already under contract. So they're not using these checklists to stay on top of their client, right? So there's a huge opportunity for you guys to be using this to create systems in your business and to be more attentive to the people, the leads. So, right, what it wants in this cultivate phase is it's not when they're under contract. It's okay, we met, we had a meaningful discussion about real estate. So how I differentiate it, right? You know how you have all your contacts up here, right? So we have all of our contacts in our command database. Great. We only add opportunities. We only add them to an opportunity if I've had a meaningful conversation with them about real estate, meaning I'm probably going to buy in the next year. Okay. If people tell you that, are you then going to forget about that? Or is this the place where you can put them in if they say they want to buy in a year? Great. I have a checklist of how to stay on top of them for the next year so that when they're ready to buy, it's me that they select, right? And it's cool because these checklists update as you pull your transaction down. So, right, that's that first step is we're putting in everything in, right? You can see right here, right? That's where I got the 6 to 12 months, right? So once I add all these checklist items in, I would then go to the next one, okay? And so what that looks like, so the nurture 3 to 6 months. So now I want to go over to the opportunities, right? Where I have the nurture, that's for this checklist now. So I would want to copy and paste those items from here into your command. And if you would like Jules and I to just do this for you for $50, we can. If you want to just email us the request, we could do this for you. But you know, it really just takes some sitting down for about an hour to copy and paste that over here, right? So now, of course, we're just going down all of these items to copy that over. Is that process clear on what we're doing at least? Okay. And I'll be sticking around after class and everything so that I can help. If you guys want to spend 5 minutes working on pulling these in, I would recommend it. So we'll start, I'll tell you a little bit more at 1:40. So if you want to, go ahead at 1 till 1:40, work on adding these in, and then I'm going to tell you how you can make any of them a client email. So if you want your client to get notified of it as well, I'll show you how you can set that up. Okay. So take 5 minutes here to add these in. And if you have any questions on how or anything, I'm here for it. You seem to have a process down, judging by your clicks. You feel okay? How are you doing, Iris?
I'm not doing too well because I added a buyer that I have.
Mhm.
So when I opened the, hold on, what was that?
That's great. You have a buyer.
Well, hopefully, yeah. So when I opened the, why did I need to go?
Oh, yeah.
Checklist.
No, you're right. So go back to, yeah. You want to go to the forms? We'll click on it to actually get to the forms.
I only have 2 that open.
Oh, that's okay. So for buyer side, so because you're on the buyer side, it's all under contract. Because for the consultation, there's just like sample forms. That's in that first one.
Okay.
Yeah, so it does look a little different, but that's correct.
So now, okay, so now one thing I noticed is that it's not populating the client. This is because I have it off. Why?
Oh, no, you're right. So you have it, oops, right there. So those are the clients. That's saying if you want them to get client updates, and that's what I'm going to show you next, how it would send them emails like from what you're doing.
So, but when you're saying that we have to go in here and submit through here our documents, right? When you open that, how do I fill these out?
In DocuSign.
So you do have to go back in to DocuSign.
So you'll use DocuSign to fill out all your forms and
Okay.
send it to your client for electronic signature.
Okay.
And then when it comes back signed, that's when you add it in here. It's just showing you what the form is.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, so
that's
I
what this is.
misunderstood.
Mhm.
Okay,
But like you would
gotcha.
actually do all the filling out and sending in DocuSign itself.
okay. I got
Mhm.
it.
And then I'll show you how you add the sign forms in though too. That'll be
Okay.
next.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so no, you didn't. So this is your pipeline, right? It usually doesn't update on existing opportunities, right? Is this your opportunity right here? Did you have 7 before, right? Oh, so it did update. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so pull this down. So if you pull that opportunity down to the next one, yep, down here, it should update that for you automatically with the new checklist. So see, now that's 6 items. Yeah, that was really great. I'm going to show everyone that. Thank you for bringing that up. So I had a great question in the class. So how you can tell it's working, for example. So now, right, I have my checklist in here. If I want to go back to the stage I was on, right, there's a little blue link on the top left that'll always take you back to your pipeline. So back to listings. But so how I can see it at work, and two, just so you know, in case you like a different view, on the top right, you can change this from either list view or board view. Okay, so depending on how you like to drag things around, totally up to you. But what I want you to pay attention to is if I drag this opportunity, so let's say, okay, great, they went from watch lead, right, 6 to 12 months. Now they're in about a 3 to 6 month period, right? So when I drag them down the pipeline, that's when I'll see the checklist number update and it resets it. Right. And if I drag them down then to the next checklist or the next stage rather, it'll update it again to that checklist. Just a note, so you can like change the stage like from the settings, but if you are moving it now to, let's say, appointment, so I'm doing this by clicking on the dots on the left-hand side and clicking and holding. And you'll see when I do that, it gives like dotted lines above here, right? So just in case, right, it needs to be, it's doing it over the one that turns blue. Sorry, I find this to be a little fickle, so I want you guys to be aware of this. So see how it turned blue now, right? But if I'm a little over, it's turning that one blue, right? So whichever one turns blue is the one you're going to drop it in. Did we see that? Is that okay? Okay, great. Okay, so now that you have your checklist, right, or we at least have the concept of how to add those checklists, all right, let's talk about how you would notify your client of some of those, right? So especially like once you're active. So you'll see I have a bunch of test opportunities, obviously, but by default, the client updates are always off. So just so you guys know, it won't accidentally send to them because by default, this feature is off. They won't get anything, even if you mark something as a client update, okay? So first thing you would have to do, okay, is you would need to turn that client update on. Now, before I show you guys that, because you'll see we're going to click on that to show you that to turn it on. However, before I do that, let's say as you're creating your stages and checklists, right, if you automatically want every time you select that you put the lockbox out, you want it to default as a client update, right? You've probably noticed when you were completing your checklist here that you have the option to check if it's a client update. And if you do that, it adds a little email icon. So what that's saying is if you go and turn it on for that specific transaction and you complete it, it'll always send out a notification to your client that you completed that item. Okay. And I'll show you an example of that email as we turn that on. But as you're creating your checklist, especially in the active phase, that might be something you want to start paying attention to, right? I probably want them to know when I put out the lockbox or the sign. So clicking those to turn them on would then turn that feature on anytime we turn it on for the transaction. So let's take a look at that part now, okay? So that was kind of step one, how you can set it up for all transactions. And then now if I click on back to listings on the top left, remember that little small blue link gets me back to my pipeline. Okay, so what I would have to do, okay, so it says client updates off. I would have to do this each transaction. I want emails to send. I would click on that transaction. Okay, and on the top right, I see client updates are off, right? So I can click on client updates here. Okay, and I would have to turn this on for any transaction I actually want this to happen. It'll be off by default, so you can't accidentally send them anything. Okay, you'd have to turn it on. You can select when it goes to them and who receives it. And it's going to send all the items that you've completed in the last 24 hours. Okay, so it'll send them if you complete three things in that email. And this is how the email looks. So there is a preview of it on the very bottom where it says preview. So, and you can just watch on mine. But it pulls the home in from the MLS, and then it would show them the items that you've completed over the last 3 days. And again, this is only if you turn this feature on for the opportunity. And it autofills all of your information specifically from your command marketing profile. It is working. So that is what it looks like when it sends them, or an example, right? And you would have to turn that on. Okay, so now I can see that that client update is on, right? So when I complete things in this checklist, anything that is automatically marked as a client update, first of all, I can see very clearly on the right-hand side, right? It would be turned on. And so anything I check off here, if that wasn't a client update, it would email them the next day to let them know. I don't think I checked it right, actually. Sorry, this side, I always do that. The check marks on the right-hand side. It shows it's completed and when it was, and it will notify them the next day. Questions on that feature in general? Hi. Yeah, if you need help setting it up, let me know, Ever. It is a very, very cool feature that Command has that many other platforms you have to pay for. So I would recommend using it or playing with it. Let me know if you have questions. Okay, so for the last 15 minutes here, I'm just going to show you what you do when you go under contract. Okay, so this is really important because you need to know this to get paid. They won't release your commission check unless you do these things. Okay, so when you go under contract, all right, so I'm going to go to the Documents tab. If I lost anyone, please just let me know. But I essentially just went into my opportunity and click on the Documents tab. Right, that's how we go to start a transaction. That's where we went to start the DocuSign room. So just to reiterate, please make sure you're never going directly to DocuSign to create a new room. We always do that from here with these steps, right? We created the opportunity, selected the checklist on the left-hand side here, and then clicked start a transaction, okay? So let's say we get our paperwork signed, because again, in DocuSign, right, we use DocuSign to grab our forms, fill them out, and have them signed. So they'll come back signed to DocuSign. And then, or if you want to if your client prefers hand signatures, that's totally fine too. So if you want to print out your form, hand fill it out, bring it to your clients to hand sign, totally fine too. You'll probably get clients that prefer that. If that's the case, right, we just scan it to our computer, right, to add it in here. And I can help walk you through that if that's the route you choose, right? But if you do have hand signatures, you can absolutely add them here, or if they've been signed in DocuSign. So again, where I am is in the Documents tab. And on the left-hand side, this is especially important if you selected a buyer opportunity, right? It says consultation at the top for buyers, and there's just not much you need for that. It's just sample forms. So especially for buyers, make sure you're clicking under contract, but this will be good to show you either way, listing or under contract. All right, so the first thing I usually do when I come in here and I'm submitting my paperwork is I want all the required forms at the top. So what you're looking at here on the right-hand side, this is a checklist. So yes, you can click on some of these forms to actually see what the form looks like, but you won't be able to really fill it out or do anything here. It's just showing you an example of it, okay? So what this is doing, it's a checklist showing you, all right, which forms are required to turn in sign to get paid. So the first thing I do is I come up to the requirement field or the menu or whatever this is, menu item here, and click on requirement. So it sorts all the required forms up top, okay? So these are the forms I need to get paid that are marked required. The conditional items are things that it would just depend on the property. So like if it's built before 78, then you might need a lead-based paint, form in order to be in compliance. Or if you went coming soon, then you would need that form. But the conditional forms are just, it depends on the property. It's not required necessarily for every transaction. I would love that. Good question. Good question. Yeah, so the ones that are marked with a DS, those are the ones that automatically pull into DocuSign. So any of the ones that have that DS, that's your mental note that they're in your DocuSign room, right? Because those are the ones that get auto added. So that's really all that's telling you is which ones are auto added versus like, okay, a CMA, that would be something that you did in the MLS, right? The MLS data sheet, I would need to, I could print it like as a PDF from the MLS, but they're not things that are in your DocuSign room always, or like proof of square footage, you would need someone to do that for you, or right? So that's what you would put in. Does that make sense? Okay, great question. Thank you. So as far as when do I submit this stuff, okay, you're going to want to submit all this paperwork in theory around 3 days after going live in the MLS is when you want to. So this is for listings specifically, right? So in the listings here, right? And two, if you're doing a buyer one, that's fine. You can go under contract. I want to show you how you can add your forms now, okay? And if you're just doing a practice one, you probably won't be able to see a whole lot here, because what it's doing right here is it's attaching files from DocuSign, okay? Because I started the DocuSign room, so it thinks all my signed forms are in DocuSign. So when I click to select the forms right here in this dropdown, it's going to show me any signed forms or PDFs that I have in my DocuSign room. So if you got it signed in DocuSign, great. It'll be on this list for you to simply click on, and it pulls it from the DocuSign room and adds it in here. So it makes it pretty painless if you got it signed in DocuSign to just go ahead and select from the dropdown. Now, if you did not, if you got it hand signed, right, and it got scanned to your computer, you can absolutely attach files from your computer instead. You just have to toggle the drop down here. So where it says attach files from, in that case, we'll select my computer. So then it's a drag and drop situation, or you can click to browse, and you can go ahead and pull in that PDF that has that signed form. I don't know if there's any on here. No. So does that make sense how to add the forms in? Okay, so now let's talk about when we add the forms in. Okay, so again, if this is a listing, ideally you want to add all of your signed paperwork in. Sabre says around 3 days after it goes live. Within the week is honestly your goal. But if she asked, I said 3 days. Sorry, Sabre. So, that's what we want to make sure we're getting all these required. And if you don't have, let's say you don't have the proof of square footage done yet, that's okay, right? If you're adding your signed paperwork, what you then need to do is click submit to MC. Okay. They do not look at your transactions unless you submit it. Okay. So when you click submit to MC, that means you have most of your listing paperwork in there. It's going to go to Carla, and she's going to go through compliance, all of it, and leave you any love notes if you are out of compliance. So you'll get an email with that compliance note, and it will also show you on the bell icon on the top right here, anytime that you have a compliance note, and that comes from Carla. Okay, so that is when you go live for a listing. Now, when you go under contract, okay, so when you go into contract, it'll be the same concept, okay, for a listing. But if you're representing the buyer, this will be the first time that you need to submit it to the office, okay? So if you're representing the buyer, when you go under contract, that's the first time that you need to turn in your paperwork. It's the same concept, right? We go in the under contract folder here on the left-hand side. I can, if these aren't already, I can sort by requirement. And then I can add in the forms either from my DocuSign room or from my computer. And again, it's only going to show you forms in DocuSign if they've been signed or if it's a PDF. Okay. And you want to submit your under contract file within about a week of going under contract, right? We would click submit to MC. Now, there is one more step that you have to do when you go under contract, and that's submitting a commission request. And this will be the last thing that we do for today. And it is also a quick video on the notes. So I'm going to show you how to do a commission request real quick, but just so you guys know where this is, and you can just watch on my screen on the notes, right? Manage a transaction that goes under contract and create a commission request. That's what I'm talking about right here, right? We just went over how to add forms to your opportunity to submit to your market center for review. Yeah, that's great. But then let's say it takes a month for you to go under contract. Now, you forgot all of that, which I understand. That's a little video that you can watch to just do it right with it. And it's 10 minutes. Okay. All right. So again, this is right here. So you don't have to shove all of this in your head, but it's important that you see how this is done because you do this every single time you go under contract. And let me just get a transaction I don't have one for already. Oops. Okay. All right. So when we go under contract, we go to the offers and commissions tab. Okay. This is how we tell the office how we're getting paid. So when your commission check comes in from the attorney to Lynn Davis, she then has the full commission check that she needs to disperse, right? She needs to know, okay, are you receiving all of your commission? Are you paying a 25% outside referral? Are you splitting it with someone inside the office? So you have to tell the office how you're getting paid. Okay. So this offers and commissions, you'll do this every time you go under contract. You'll come in and click add new offer. Okay. And this is where we can go in and add in the offer details. So only you see really this, whatever this is, the title right here of the offer. So let's say I put in the buyer's name and click create offer. All right, so there's just a few things that you want to fill in. So typically what I do is I have the offer to purchase executed pulled up in another tab so I can reference it because it's going to ask you questions about the offer. We can make up things for today, but things like, okay, the offer date, meaning the executed date. So let's say it was executed on the 26th. When are we closing? Right, that's when you look at the offer to see the settlement date. Right, let's say we're closing January 10th. All right, so that's all we have to do. And I'm going to click the next button. And you'll see right here on this little pipeline thing where we are in the process. So if I go next, it's going to look a little overwhelming, but actually all you have to fill out is anything with this red asterisk. So that's just the name of the buyer. So let's say that's John Smith. And the associate on the other side. Your client and your name should autofill. So really you're just adding what's the buyer agent's name on the other side and the client. So just anything with that red star. So we're good. And we're clicking next. So I know it looks like a lot of fields, but it's not as painful as it might look. Okay, and this is really the last meat of it. So right here, what we're putting in is the terms. So how much are they paying cash versus how much are they financing? It does want you to put it in here and here. Like you can't, from my memory, you can't type right in here. Yeah, you can't type right in the sales price. So just so you guys know, you need to put in the cash. If that's 0, it's fine, whatever, for it to add up to the final sales price right here. All right, and then we can put in what is the earnest money. So if that's 1%. So, and where a lot of this is going to come in is, so you can also through this, yes, we do it when we go under contract, but if you go into a multiple offer situation, you can compare all the offers for them. And I'll show you that if you want to stick around after this, but just so you know, if you do get multiple offers, right, it allows clients to be able to see the offer details without looking through 13 different pages of the offer, and they can see it side by side. I'll show you that after this example. All right, so I'm going to click on that next button on the bottom. And it's going to take me to the agent analysis. Again, this is something that you can just click save unless you're trying to do an offer comparison, comparing offers. So I'm just going to click save for right now, but I will come back to explain that to you. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the offer, and I need to accept it. Okay, and this is the final step. You guys are doing great. I know this is a lot of information, but just know when you actually go under contract, right? I have a short video that you can follow and do the step by step. So now that I accepted that offer, I'm going to click Manage Commission. All right, and this is where it's showing the office, or me and the office, how much I'm getting paid. Okay, and if I need to pay to anyone else. So first of all, the contract date tends to do this to me. So if it's red like this, I know we already entered that in. No biggie. All you need to do is click Edit General Information. So I make sure that contract date is in here. So just in case this was read for you, right? If the contract date didn't come in, no worries. You just click edit general information to add that in. Below that, you'll see your commission, how that's being split, right? So you'll see your gross commission, how much is going to company dollar and royalty. And then if you are splitting it with another agent in the office or an outside referral, this is where that would be added, okay? And that's something that I can show you when the time comes. But all I would do is click edit agent payment, or if someone has that going on right now that you want to see a specific example, feel free to let me know and I can show you that. Oh, you're good, Iris. And then you can click submit on the right. Don't right now, by the way, but you can click submit on the right-hand side. So we do that every time we go under contract. So it's very important that you know that it exists so that you can get paid. Questions on that specifically? Okay, well, if it comes back or on anything else, would you guys like to see the offer comparison? Or is there anything specific that you want to go over in all that we've done, or something that I haven't said anything about? It's fine too. Okay, so yeah, just so you guys know, in the offer comparison as well, and feel free to chime in online if anyone wants to see that live. But if you do get a multiple offer situation, it is pretty cool. This offer comparison, just to show you real quick what it would look like, is so from the offers, so what you would do, let's say I have this one offer, right? And I would need to add like the second offer. So let's say this is offer number 2. So this will be quick. So let's say this is offer 2. Let me do this real quick. All right, so I can put in any of the details here, especially when it starts to get to the terms, right? What it's going to do is show kind of like an Excel spreadsheet with all of this information side by side, so they can really see the difference in the offer. So that's 2%. Let's say this is 60 days. And let's say they're contributing $4,000 to settlement. Okay.
Can these offer comparisons also be emailed to the client?
Yes, great question. They can. I'll show you that. And it's very cool. I like that. So this last part here with agent analysis, this is where you can put in your personal opinions on, okay, cons are it's contingent, pros is, let's say, a large cash offer. Okay, and any summary you want. So where this pipes up and where you'll see the offer comparison that you can email or print is, so now that I have those 2 offers in here, if I click select all on the left-hand side, right, or if I have multiple, I can select whichever offers I want, and I could click compare offers on the right-hand side. Yeah, right. So it creates this, and you can see if I would have filled out like the first offer a little more detail, right? You can really give your pros and cons, and all the terms are really included here. If there's a third offer, that would be the next column that would say all of that. Right? When agents are given clients are giving a 13-page offer, it's like their eyes are crossing. They have no idea what they're looking at. This lays it out so they can see exactly what are the pros and cons. And we know that it's not all about the offer price, but do they know that, right? They might see this offer price that's higher than the other offer, but they're not taking into account the settlement costs that sellers contribute, those kind of other details in the offer. So this really helps you educate them. Now you can email offer comparison on the right-hand side. So that would give you the ability to put in the email address, and you can send a copy to you, which I like. I'm just gonna make sure it comes. So if you want to go ahead and like send yourself a copy, you absolutely can. So you can see what it looks like. All right, and it shows me that it was successfully sent. So you can print that out, bring it on your appointment, or email it right from there. It does give you the option to, I think, download it to a CSV as well. Yeah, download right here. So if you wanted to just download it and print it out, you could as well. And this is what it would look like. Questions on the offer comparison? Do you guys think you might use that? Nice. I do really like that feature. These are the kind of opportunities features that a lot of agents don't know exists, right? Because they're just putting their offers in when they go under contract, right? But if you do put your transaction in, when you are, you know, cultivating that relationship, well, then that gives you a clear path of what you need to do to pull them down the pipeline. I'm happy to stick around to, you know, help you guys with adding those checklists in, or if there's literally anything else you guys want to go over, I'm here for it. Is there anything in Command in general that you would like to see or have questions on? And feel free, those of you online, feel free to chime in with this as well. Hey, me too. I love the checklist. And the checklist, yeah, it's a pain to set up, right? You can see how no one would want to do that. It's like clawing your eyes out. But once it's there, right? And it updates as you pull the checklist down. That is very cool. Ah, so glad. I'm so glad that was helpful, guys. Just a reminder, last thing before you leave, if you do want DocuSign, because obviously I was in DocuSign for seconds, but this right here is the DocuSign complete training. And just so you know, if you lose these notes altogether, the DocuSign training video is right on KWB resources, right? Where all good things are.
All the notes.
What, this?
Yeah.
It's hiding. I should move it up. I'm gonna like switch these around. Right. Yeah, I'm gonna move them up. That's a great tip. Thank you. Yeah, if you guys scroll down, I mean, there's the DocuSign notes. There's all the class notes that we teach down here. So if you do want the other notes, they are here. But actually what I pulled this up, KWB resources on the front page is the DocuSign video. I just know DocuSign is one of those things that when you need to learn it, there's like a deadline by 5 p.m. and you can't find anyone at that exact moment. This is the video to watch. It's on the main page of kwbresources.com. It shows you how to access your forms, send for electronic signatures, the whole 9. That would be the video I would recommend watching after today's class if you want more on DocuSign specifically. Oh, and last thing, if you want to book a one-on-one appointment with us, all you need to do is on kwbresources.com. You click on I need tech help on the top right, or if you're on a phone, you have to click on the menu icon first. That's our Calendly link, so you can sign up for a one-on-one. I will say, don't be too alarmed. I know we're a little limited on spots. Jules is getting married this weekend, so we're out of town this weekend, but you know, book with us and we're happy to meet with you, but that just might be why we are limited on availability. Questions other than that? Okay. Well, I'll be around. If anyone online has any questions, feel free to chime in or email me. I'm going to put my email in the Zoom chat. And if you have any questions or want further training, shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to help you guys. Thanks for coming to class, everyone. Yeah, for sure. Oh, good. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Right. Well, this is perfect timing then. I'm glad. Well, cool. Well, looking forward to it. How you doing, Dylan?
Good.
Is it a Chinese finger trap?
I know they're just here.
Oh, you didn't come
No.
with the.
No, they were here already.
I have lots of questions about that class.